So today we're talking everything VPN related. And no, I'm not here to sell you a VPN because I honestly wouldn't do that.
Install ExpressVPN and yes, this is partially me shilling you a VPN.
But now all we have to do is head over to the App Store and type in ExpressVPN.
The way to support the channel is to go ahead and purchase a VPN.
Okay, we can cut that out, right? So let's be honest, VPN ads are everywhere. You'll see everyone from little YouTubers to gamers to the big guys such as Linus Tech Tips promote them and tell you to purchase them. Damn, I've even seen Mr. Beast run ExpressVPN ads. And I'm gonna tell you, he probably made a fortune off that. But I thought it'd be extremely useful to you to break down 4 topics on a VPN. Number 1 is, what is a VPN? Number 2, we're gonna look at how a VPN works. Number 3, we're going to talk about paid versus free VPNs and really break down both the benefits and the possible major negatives of both. And lastly, number 4, we're going to talk about a VPN in related to streaming. And if you really need to get one while you're streaming content online, whether it's official content from Netflix or it's the third-party stuff. Sorry, got a little dust in my eye. Now, if you guys are new to the channel, I talk about everything streaming, whether it's streaming devices, helpful apps, or even up-to-date news on different services. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and give this video a big thumbs up. And like always, for the first hour to 2 hours of this video, I try to answer all of your questions. Usually I'll answer it later on in the day, so don't get mad if I don't answer it within that first hour to 2 hours. And like always, go give us a follow on Instagram because we are trying to get to 1,000 followers by the end of August. Let's get into today's video. So we're gonna break down the first 2 questions in one kind of hopefully basic and to the point answer. I'm gonna be as concise as possible. And that is, what is a VPN and how does it work? Well, what is a VPN is pretty simple to answer. You've seen the ads everywhere. If you don't know what it stands for yet, it stands for Virtual Private Network. And how it works will really explain what it is all in one. So every device we use, whether it is our iPhone, maybe it's our PC, maybe our PlayStation upstairs, they all have an IP address. Now this is, try to think of it as a digital address. So we have our physical address. This is our device's digital online address. Now this digital address is very important to protect because if hackers or people with malicious intent get hands on it, they can get all sorts of personal information from your computer, such as your location, maybe passwords and things like that, and really do some not so great things. Now, how do they do this? Well, when we search a website, our IP address is basically sent to a server. That server then requests the data from our final location, which would be the website, and they send it back to our IP address. Now, of course, websites already take parts of your data. We know this, and this is one of the reasons why you use a VPN. But typically, it's not for malicious intent. However, if it is, that is when a VPN will come in handy. So with a VPN, that information is going to still go from your home, your IP address. Instead, you're going to be sending that request to the VPN's server. Now, the VPN server is made up of tons of locations. So for example, ExpressVPN, the one that I promote, you can change your location to the United States, Canada, the UK, Australia, and that server will then send that request to the final destination as an IP address that is specific to that location. So that's basically creating a tunnel, protecting your data through their server. That way they don't really ever come in contact with your IP address. Now, it doesn't necessarily ever completely protect you. However, it is an extra layer of protection that a lot of people like to have. So now that we have a decent idea of what a VPN is, let's get into paid versus free VPNs. Now, of course, most VPN companies, they still have to follow the law. So there has been cases where during certain criminal cases, etc., the law enforcement or FBI or whatever have gone to VPN companies and said, hey, we need the data of these people. Or sometimes in lawsuits with streaming websites or streaming services, they said, we need the data from these people. So some VPNs have a no log policy. This means they don't keep any of your data, or so they say. We never actually know for sure, I guess. But most of those services that offer no logs, meaning that they don't log the websites you go onto, so they have nothing to hand over, they are usually paid VPN. So ExpressVPN, NordVPN, those ones typically have complete no-log policies. Now with the free ones, that's not necessarily the case. Often they have to sell your data in order to actually make enough money. Now I can't speak for every free VPN, but there is definitely an assortment that are going to be selling your data. Now I don't want you to be mistaken. It's not like the paid VPNs. There's 100% no chance they're selling your data. That does happen. There's definitely been cases. And you have to use one you trust. And it's one of those things that once they break that trust, it's really hard to go back on, especially with a VPN service. Now, besides the no-log policy, a popular use of a VPN is, of course, changing your location. So for services such as Netflix, Prime Videos, all those services you actually pay money for, changing the location allows you to typically unlock more content or different content because licensing right restricts what countries Netflix can show their shows and movies into. And this goes the same for most paid services. Usually a VPN will really make a huge difference. However, free VPNs typically have issues doing that because Netflix is very good at blocking busy IPs. With paid VPNs, more often than not, that Netflix feature is going to work because that is something they promote. They do that by changing them more often and making sure there's fresh sets of VPNs for people to use. So ExpressVPN, I can say 100%, I've never had an issue, not me just promoting it. But that doesn't mean the other ones such as Nord, IPVanish don't offer just as great unlocking features for Netflix. But there's also free apps that you can use a VPN on in order to unlock that might only be available in the United States or might only be available in the UK, such as some of their specific like BBC content. So VPN is specifically also great for that. The paid one is definitely going to make a huge difference with unlocking content. The free ones, sometimes they're free, so you can always try them out, but we just have to think of that first thing we talked about with logging data as well. Now, the last thing with a VPN is speed. Obviously, sending your data to another server is typically going to cut your internet speed at your computer down a little bit, right? So we're going to receive that request a little bit slower, and it's just the reality of using a VPN. Now, free VPNs in general, I've done testing in the past. I actually did a video on this. I think it's still up. They are going to slow your internet down a lot, okay? So you're going to get a lot lower download speeds and upload speeds while using it. And I found when I was using it, I think I was down to like 30 megabytes per second. So the download speed was extremely slow, where with paid VPNs, it is usually triple to quadruple that. So they stay a little more steady, and it's usually at least an acceptable speed compared to the free VPN. Now, it's not to say a free VPN can't be a really solid option. However, the paid is just going to offer better features overall. It costs money, so make your decision. Maybe try the free, and if you're like, this is not doing it for me, go with the paid. If you're using a VPN consistently, you just want to get a paid one. Now, the final question, do we really need a VPN while streaming? Now, for one, they are very least extremely useful for unlocking those services. So you can do a lot more streaming with it. You know, it might cost the price of paying for a really cheap streaming service such as Hulu, maybe $5 a month you're paying for your VPN. But you can actually get more content than you can from one streaming service just by getting a VPN. I would say in most countries, it's really not necessary. Now, depending on what kind of streaming you're doing, you might want to use a VPN just for that ease of mind, especially one with a no-log policy that's never going to track what you're doing. For example, in the UK, I know they can be extremely strict with IPTV. I haven't heard of any cases really of just individual consumer users getting in trouble for using it and a VPN protecting them. However, it will add that extra layer of security if you're, a little sketched out of something like that happening eventually anyways. Now, I'm never going to fearmonger and say you absolutely need a VPN, but there's clearly a ton of benefits, so it definitely won't hurt. I have an exclusive deal down below. I know I wouldn't sell. You don't have to buy it, guys. If you don't want ExpressVPN, some other great ones are Nord as well and IPVanish. If you don't want to get through me because you're like, you said you were not going to promote, perfectly fine. I understand. Go check out one of the other great VPNs. If you want to support the channel, my ExpressVPN link is down below. I do get a kickback, so I appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.